folks. Welcome back to another episode of Bet GPT. This is episode 78, and today is our 2025 MLB season preview. Slade, we're about, I think, 19 days away from the Cubs taking that trip overseas to play the Dodgers.
Yeah, last day of February. Once you hit March, you start to feel spring training. And you start to pay attention to spring training. You start overanalyzing every little game that happens and trying to figure out if it means something or means absolutely nothing. And then by like midsummer, you look back and you're like, those spring training games didn't really matter at all. But for now, we're gonna overreact to everything we see.
Yeah, 100%. And like, it's really hard to kind of parse together like the news, like what's important and what's not. Because there's so many rookies up, so many guys getting at bats. There's, some injuries where, maybe they're just resting. Like you see Matt Shaw and the Cubs, they're not trying to rush him back. It sounds like he's doing okay. He's going to get some at bats next week, and hopefully that'll lead into opening day. But then there's obviously other bigger injuries that you can keep an eye on. Like, for example, I know we were texting each other this morning on the 28th that Luis Gil is potentially getting an MRI. And immediately, just upon hearing that news, I went on the player markets and we both took his under for strikeouts for the year. So by the time you listen to this, you're probably not going to have those props available, but we were able to get those down. So just another thing too is these books really don't. There's no way they can keep up with all these injury news. If you see something within like 2 minutes, it's best to check out what's out there.
Put your pass and alerts on.
Exactly. And turn your John Morosi and everyone else off. Who's that other guy? Who's the other guy I don't like for the he's
John
based
Heyman.
out of New York. John Heyman, yeah, those two guys. I guess Morosi's okay. I shouldn't put him in that
He
category.
does like hockey halftime, and then other halftime is baseball.
Yeah.
He's a little odd, but he's fine.
Yeah, so it's just Heyman.
It's Heyman. Don't forget Bob Nightingale.
Yeah, those two guys. I almost wish there was like a separate sport invented where those two were the only guys who could cover it, like ever, and it would just be so much misinformation and chaos. It'd be
those two. Throw in Tom Kakert.
Tom has
From
not
a few episodes ago.
He's not reached out to us for comment yet regarding my rant, but hopefully we'll hear back from him soon. Okay, so what we're doing with this MLB preview is we want to have some fun as well, just to kind of, preview players as well. We're going to do a snake draft where we're going to each select 4 players from 4 different categories, and then we'll keep track of their WAR throughout the year. So I'll explain that in a second. But real quick, just our overall episode today, we're going to do these snake drafts. We're going to do we're going to go division by division, talking about our best bets or best predictions in terms of who's going to win the division, who's going to ultimately make the playoffs, and who we could see in the World Series. And then we also have some futures for like season leaders and like home runs, doubles, runs scored, all that good stuff. Then obviously my favorite thing, the awards. We were going to talk Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year. I know Slade, you have some Comeback Player of the Year things. So we'll go through each category too, and probably just read off FanDuel and DraftKings and just kind of see if there's any value we can pick off right now. But okay, in terms of the snake draft, so what we're going to do is we have 4 categories we're drafting from. We're going to do 2 of the categories today and two of the categories next week at the beginning of the show for our next episode. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do our shortstop / second base, so our middle infield category, followed by the outside of the infield, which is the third base / first base category. So we'll be doing those 2 categories today, and then next episode we'll do pitchers and then just all the outfield. So by the end of the next week's episode, we'll each have 16 players drafted. And then what we're going to do is we'll look at their F4 on Fangraphs, and we'll add them up, and we'll see who has the higher score. So we'll have 16 guys. Whoever has the lowest score on your team, we're just going to throw them out. There's probably going to be an injury or two. So hopefully we can try to avoid that. I don't want to see you drafting Mike Trout first overall in the outfield, because I know you would have.
We got to give ourselves a chance to take some high risk, high reward players, and you can't
It's
really
true.
do that if you're afraid to draft anybody who's going to have a chance to get hurt.
That's true. So yeah, anyway, top 15, we'll add it up. And the loser has to buy the other person dinner, which we did not previously talk about, but I think that's a fair wager that we can come up with. So without further ado, we're gonna get started here. The shortstop slash second base category, snake draft, first overall. Who this is basically just a prediction of who do you think is gonna be the highest performing uh, middle infielder this year in terms of WAR.
I think for this category, we're probably both going to lean more into the shortstops just because second base is a down position across the league this year. Shortstops is maybe the best it's been in our lifetime just in terms of depth. I think we could probably take all 8 as shortstops. Maybe a second baseman will sneak in there, but I'm going to start it off going a little chalky, but with one of my favorite players, Bobby Witt Jr.
I think that's a really good pick. I don't think you can go wrong with that. Is there anybody? Well, I guess there's some strategy here. You don't want to tell me who you want, not who you were going to take next, but
I'll tell
uh,
you after you do. You're going to take the next 2, so I'll tell you who I would have taken second, or if you had picked first. After
yeah,
you go,
yeah. Okay, so gave you Bobby Witt. I think that's a no brainer. He's I think second in terms of the odds to win MVP this year behind Judge. I'm gonna go with Mookie Betts. So he was previously obviously an outfielder, has kind of turned in their super utility guy for the Dodgers. It sounds like he's going to play a lot of shortstop this year. If not, he'll be moved to second base, but he'll be in the infield this year. It's pretty impressive that he's actually able to just do that. There's probably like maybe 3 or 4 guys in the league who could make such a dramatic change and not be a huge liability out there. But that's going to be who I'm going with here. Um, then with my next pick, I just feel like this is going to be a little bit of a surprise, but I have to do it.
can I
I'm going to go
guess?
with, yeah.
Oh, never mind. You kind of started, so I know
What
who
are you
you're
going
going
to
to
say?
say. You're going to say Lindor, aren't you?
Francisco Lindor.
Okay.
Yep. He's
I
my
thought you were
second
going to
pick.
say Ellie De La Cruz, but until I heard the.
Mm, yeah. The Francisco Lindor. So, almost on MVP last year. I expect him to continue and to have a really good year, especially with Juan Soto in that lineup now. They got Alonso back. There's a lot of protection for him and really a lot of less pressure for just everyone individually on that team to perform well. They should all be able to play well.
Lindor is a trendy MVP pick. I know some of the sharps are on that. They see the Mets as a team that can win 90 plus games, and he's the shortstop of that team. And we know he was probably the second best player in the National League in the second half last year, behind only Shohei. Um, so I think that's a good pick. Mookie, I felt like was kind of a safe choice. If he stays healthy, he's at very least going to be a 4 or 5 win player, even if he isn't his prime self. So can't really go wrong there, assuming health. Um, I'm a little surprised you didn't take our man Gunnar Henderson though.
Well, he left the spring training game for precautionary purposes yesterday, and I just didn't want to risk it. So I don't know if you saw that news or
I
not.
didn't, but I don't know if I really care.
Manager Brandon Hyde of the Orioles, as of yesterday at 1 p.m., said they are not giving him an MRI. They're going to continue to monitor how he's doing, but it sounds like he is okay. But that is why I did not draft him.
Okay, I will bet on the upside. I'll take him at pick 4. I mean, he's 23 years old. Probably for the first half of last season, he might have been the AL MVP if it was around the All Star break.
Yeah.
Um, maybe this is the year he puts it all together. Um, it's hard for me to picture a scenario where he isn't at least a 4 win player. So I will take Gunnar Henderson. And we have a soft spot for Gunny. So
Hmm.
he's made us money in the past, right? So I'll take Gunnar. And for my 5th pick, I don't think this is necessarily out there or anything, but I do think it's risky. He's also another trendy MVP pick, but it's Corey Seager.
Hmm.
I am going to take Seager because, as we will get into with the divisions, I like the Rangers.
Okay. Yeah, we can get into that a little bit more. I definitely think the Rangers were coming off like that classic World Series slump or whatever you want to call it. Just got a little slow out of the gate last year, had some injuries. So I do think Corey Seager's the leader of that team. He is one of the most professional hitters in the league. So I'm not going to combat you on that one. Okay, so it looks like I have 2 picks to close this out here. So we mentioned Ellie De La Cruz. I'd say he is a high risk, high reward. Fangraphs has him as the 19th, um, 19th highest projected WAR out of all players this year. Um, so I definitely think that he's up there. But before I select him, I'm still trying to decide. I think I'm going to go with Ketel Marte. So we'll take our first second baseman here.
I thought you were going to
Um,
leave him for me.
No, you're not that lucky. So Ketel Marte of the D-backs, I expect a big year out of him, and I expect an even bigger year out of Corbin Carroll. I anticipate one of us is going to select him in the outfield,
Probably, yeah.
in the outfield draft. And then with this last pick, yeah, I'll go with Ellie De La Cruz. I feel like he's the best player on the board. He has Terry Francona as the manager. I think the most trendy pick this year, other than Red Sox win over, would be the Cincinnati Reds team total win over. So I'll go with that.
All right, yeah, you took the 2 guys I would have taken. I feel like there's kind of a drop off after those top 7 we just named.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of hoping one would fall to me because I don't really love any of my options here with the last pick. But with that said, I will take Trey Turner. I think the gap between him and a Willie Adames or a Xander Bogaerts. I mean, I'm looking at some of my options here, and I don't really love them. CJ Abrams is a young guy, but that's a risky pick. Second base, you're looking at, maybe a Marcus Simeon. Jose Altuve is playing the outfield this year, so I don't even know if that would be, eligible. But I think that's the best play. Shortstop on a really good team. He can steal bases. He's only 31 years old. That's the move.
Now, let me ask you this: do you love that pick?
No,
Because
no, I don't.
would you be interested in making a trade with me?
If that's out, are we
Perhaps
allowed?
we can do whatever we want. It's our podcast. What if I proposed you could tell Marte and Ellie De La Cruz for Corey Seager, and then I get one more selection?
So then I would have.
You would have Ketel Marte, Ellie De La Cruz, and you drop Seager and Turner.
So I'd have.
You'd have Bobby Witt, Gunnar Henderson,
Ellie
Ketel
De La,
Marte, Ellie De La Cruz. Yeah.
for the fun of the pod, yeah. Let's do it. I don't care.
All right. So we have our first official trade, and I'm glad you did because I am going to take. I'm going to reach down the list here. Oh, this is. I almost regret this already, but I feel like Marcus Semien of the Rangers. I'm gonna go with the Rangers stack here. I think both those guys are gonna play really, really well this year. And Ellie De La Cruz, I think he has behind Bobby Witt. I think he might have the highest ceiling. I know Gunnar is gonna be right up there as well, but
Yeah. He does
I don't
because of
know.
steals. Steals, if he gets on base, is really what it comes down to. Because he had that really bad slump and strikeout problem at points in his career. But when he gets on base, he steals almost every time. That's a huge value add, especially when you're talking about how we're counting here as WAR.
Yeah,
I mean, he gets 40 steals in his sleep, so it's just getting on base. That's his thing. Learning how to
100%,
take a damn
100%.
walk.
Yeah, I know. I think he'll learn that with Francona. But all right, so post trade, Slade, Bobby Witt, Gunnar Henderson, Ketel Marte, Ellie De La Cruz. I'll give that an A minus. I think that's pretty good. Me post trade, Bobby Witt, Mookie Betts, Francisco Lindor, Corey Seager, Marcus Simeon. I'll give that a C. I think that on paper it doesn't look good, but at the end of the year we're gonna regrade it up to an A. So that's where I'm at.
All right. You know what's funny is I think you could have drafted that team from the beginning, and we didn't even need to do a trade because wasn't Simeon there the whole time?
That is true. That is true, but I
you
made a
basically
mistake,
just
so
you basically just pick somebody before you really wanted when you really wanted someone else, and then I got the player I probably would have. So I guess it works out.
it, I just I do not like it when someone selects Corey Seager, whether it's in a fantasy draft or whatever it
I
is.
was playing
I love
chess.
Corey Seager.
I knew you were not going to be able
Yeah,
to go. Let me have him.
I can't resist. All right, so let's see if we can get through this without a trade. If not, I'd still have fun. So uh, we're shifting to third base and first base.
You go first. This one.
Yeah, I'm up here. A lot going on with this category.
Yeah.
Third baseman, obviously, super vital to your team. A lot of good hitters. Same with first base. um, so third base, I'll go with. Man, this is tough.
Should we make it a rule that you have to pick one at least, so like you get four, but at least one has to be in each position? Since we kind of already did that, because you have Simeon and I have Partey.
Marche. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, that sounds good. Okay. So in terms of third base, I'm going to go with Jose Ramirez. I think he's just as
Okay,
long as he's healthy, he's going to be putting up numbers. One of the most underrated guys of our generation. Like 90% sure he's going to the Hall of Fame. As long as he keeps doing what he's doing. So I'll go Jose Ramirez of the Guardians.
he's a great player. I wish he would have. I wish the Cubs could have made a deal for him at multiple different points in the past. But yeah, I mean, there's other guys on this list with higher upside, but he's definitely the safest pick, and he still has MVP upside too. So it's not like I'm saying he's a low ceiling guy.
Yeah.
You know, I I don't really want to use Devers here, full transparency, because I know there's a good chance he ends up with a lot of DH, a lot of games playing DH, and that's not going to help your WAR. But then again, his defense also kind of isn't great, so maybe he could be helping himself by like not losing WAR.
That's
Um,
true.
Either way, I'm going to kind of take a big swing here, take a guy I enjoy watching play baseball, and that's Bryce Harper. Um, I
Wow.
just think he could have a monster year, and it seems like every other year he's an MVP finalist. So maybe he's due for that again.
Very interesting pick. Projected 24th on Fangraphs. So you
I
definitely was
did. I
not.
reached.
Yeah.
He's projected 46th overall, not position player, but 46th overall in like fantasy for your standard leagues. Um, but I'm gonna counter that with pick number 3 being someone that I think is probably the most steady player in all of the MLB. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't want to make any guesses because I don't want you to change your mind
All
and
right. Yeah.
flip
Okay.
somebody else.
His name's Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
He's gonna roll out of bed and hit close to 300, close to 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, get on base, be surrounded by a great lineup, stay healthy, be a good above average first baseman. That's my pick, Freddie Freeman.
Okay. I dig it. I dig it. I have not picked any first baseman yet, so I'm just going to take the best one on the board, Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Getting him at 4, you have to feel pretty good.
Yeah. um, he is one positive for the Blue Jays this year. It seems like they've gotten second to every single free agent they've possibly ever wanted the past 2 years. So that's been a tough scene for them. But they still have Vlad Jr. at least for half a season more. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get traded at the deadline. I know he's a free agent, whether it's next year or the year after. So uh, gotta enjoy him while you have him. So I'll take Vlad Jr. here, which leaves me with 2 picks to go. And I already know one person I want to reach for, so I'll go with a little safer pick here. I'll go with Austin Riley. This is a
Mm.
guy that I usually try to put a couple bucks on to lead the league in home runs every single year. I just think he's so solid, and I think the Braves will be pretty good this year. So I'm going Austin Riley.
I've bet him to win MVP a couple years ago, and then he got hurt. But yeah, his upside's there. All right,
Okay.
is it my turn?
Yeah, you have 2 picks.
All right. I know I just kind of shit on him, but I have to take a third baseman, and I think there's a gap between these guys. So I'm going to take Devers.
Okay.
Um, like I said, I don't think he's losing a ton of defensive value because he's not great at third base anyways. But I just trust his bat. He's going to get the job done. So that's my third pick. And then
Okay.
I think I'm going to take a Brave as well. Um, I think I'm going to go with Matt Olson. He had a down year last year. Not down year, but 2 years ago he hit like what 50 some homers.
Yeah.
Last year he kind of took a step back, but he's also a really damn good player. He's also only 30 years old. It feels like he's been around forever. So I think sometimes people in their head think he's like 33, 34. He's 30. Um, so I'm gonna take Matt Olson and just hope on a big year.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I think that's a really solid pick. On the other hand, I have 1 pick left. I'm wondering on the position eligibility here. It looks
Hmm.
like I wanna go with Junior Caminero, the
Oh, I was
infielder
thinking about that too,
for the
but
Rays. I believe he's eligible because I
he
know he
is
played a little bit of
he's eligible
shortstop,
for
but
third.
okay. I think he's gonna play majority third, so I'm gonna go with him. I think that he is going to have a huge year for the Rays. It seems like every other year the Rays are good. I know they lost Wander Franco to that whole deal. Um, so glad he's out of the MLB, but kind of taking his place in that young core, Junior Caminero. I think he's going to have uh, a really big year. I think he's going to vault into not MVP discussion, but he'll be receiving some votes for maybe 5th place, something like that.
Yeah,
So that's who I'm taking.
it's nice to know that there's going to be some early bidding on him for our fantasy draft for baseball, because I know I had him circled as a guy I'd reach for. Um,
Hmm.
and it kind of sucked. Maybe it's a good thing for in terms of betting, but he barely hit the cutoff or went over the cutoff for eligibility for Rookie of the Year. He had just enough at bats last year. If he was eligible for Rookie of the Year, he'd be a runaway favorite in the American League. There'd be no value. It would be
100%. Yeah.
because Jason Dominguez, whatever his name is on the Yankees, is right now the favorite, and like that's not even a comparison between those two.
No.
Um, so yeah, that's a good pick. I thought you were going to take Bregman. I thought that's who you were saying you had circled.
If the Cubs would have signed him, I would have. Otherwise, no. I'm good. I do have
Yeah,
a Bregman future. Oh, we actually both bet it for later.
yeah. I
So,
was gonna. Yeah.
any trades are you cool with your draft here?
I think your team's a little better than mine, but I don't see any trades here that make sense.
Okay. All right. So these are our first two. It's good to kind of just talk about the top players in each category individually for a second before we get into futures. So, like I said, next episode we'll preview our favorite pitchers, um, and then our favorite outfielders for this upcoming year. But yeah, we'll get this posted on our 6-pack Excel sheet. We have a separate tab. I'm calling it MLB War Draft. So we'll just keep track of this, and then probably maybe once a month we can update the standings just to kind of see where we're at throughout the year.
Yep.
But okay. All right, cool. So that was a fun exercise. Let's get into the actual MLB, preview the standings and how we think the AL and NL are going to play out. So let's just start in the AL East. Yankees obviously lost Soto. They're still the favorites to win the division. As I'm pulling the odds up here, um, do you have any indication or any bets or any thoughts on how you think the AL East is going to go?
I I personally took the Red Sox at plus 425 to win the division. That was right around the time of Bregman signing. It might have been even the day before. I don't remember, but I'm a little concerned about how trendy it is. Um, Everybody and their brother is on it. Everyone, I think, is starting to look past the Yankees. I thought at the time I made that bet that I was zagging, but now I feel like I'm following everyone else on it. So I don't
Yeah.
love it as much as I used to. I still think it's a very good value at plus 425, but I think that there's a little bit of disrespect to the Yankees, even the Orioles on this list, or the Orioles on this list.
Well, I think the disrespect is the Orioles. I am really not high on the Yankees. I know I wasn't last year either. I really underplayed the Soto signing, but without Soto this year, Judge, very minimal protection. He's another year older. He's a guy who is absolutely incredible, had like an 11.2 WAR last season, even though the first month of the season he was like non-existent. He kind of jumped out to, I think it
Yeah,
was 16-1 to win MVP. Um, but without that line of protection, like, yeah, they got Paul Goldschmidt in. I just don't think that's the same at all. I
yeah,
mean, you can see you laughing. So I'm going to stick with the Orioles. I think, they got Felix Bautista coming back, their ace closer. They didn't do a whole lot in terms of pitching. They have Grayson Rodriguez as their ace, who I do believe in, and I hope he can stay healthy. Um, so I didn't play this, but I'd be leaning Orioles. I'm probably going to be keeping an eye on that in season to win.
yeah.
And yeah,
There was a lot of good free agent moves in this division, or not, I should say interesting free agent moves in this division. I mean, the Orioles lose Corbin Burns, but I think a move that's underrated nationally is Santander leaving as well. He was really good for them. He's one of those guys that a team like the Orioles, it was he was a very like Rays, Orioles, Cleveland type player where it was just like he's not a Hall of Famer, he's not some former elite prospect, but he's gonna hit 40 home runs and be really good for you for a year or two. And he walked out the door. That's a big bat out of the lineup. I think between him and Corbin Burns, people are kind of overlooking it, but they're not looking at what step forward can a Jackson Holiday make? What step forward can a Grayson Rodriguez make? They're still both very young teams, very young teams. So um, I wouldn't necessarily say they're my favorite, but it's not like I'd be surprised if they won it. And then on the Yankee side, I totally agree with you on the lineup piece. Stanton is also hurt. Um, he has like tennis elbow in both elbows, which is like I didn't know was possible. Um, they did add Max Fried to the rotation, so their rotation I think is probably the strongest part of their team, and there is a path for them to just get carried by their pitching staff, not even their lineup.
yeah, I know you really like Stroman. So with the heel injury, Stroman could be slated as their fifth starter.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
I generally agree with you.
Luis Heal's a little banged up, so that could matter. I mean, he probably overperformed last year, but they also went half the year last year without. Um, why am I drawing a blank? The pitcher, Garrett Cole.
Oh yeah, Garrett Cole. Yep.
So they did trade for Devin Williams from the Brewers to be their closer. So
Hmm.
like they've made moves on the pitching side. It's just there's no way their lineup is going to be better. Cody
Yeah.
Bellinger isn't going to change things.
The thing about the Yankees, though, is I think they will be aggressive at the deadline. They did it last year, whereas the Orioles seem to really be content with just the next 10 years. We just want to get in the playoffs and see what happens.
Yeah,
They are just like um, Kesson Herstead. He'd be like one of the best hitters on like a not great team, and he can't even crack the lineup for them. Kobe Mayo's another top rookie.
he's going
Yeah,
to start in AAA, I think. Mayo.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I'd expect him up maybe later in the year, but like there's no room. Um, they also have Vance Honeycutt from North Carolina from
Oh
last year.
yeah,
He's going to be up, not this year, but a couple years from now. Like they're going to have to make decisions. And if you have all these top prospects, like just, trade one. Like I feel like if they tried hard enough last year, they could have got Tariq Skubal. It would have been a lot, but I think they could have potentially pulled something like that off, and they didn't. And chances are they probably won't do it again. So,
yeah.
very cool on the Orioles to win a World Series, but I do think that they can win 90 plus
Don't
games and
don't
win a
forget our
division.
boy Colton Cowser. All right, man in center field.
Yes,
He would have been the worst AL rookie of the year maybe ever, but he was our guy.
Correct. And instead, Luis Heel was the worst rookie of
Yeah,
the
I
year
was gonna say
ever. So
he's
it's fine.
um
It's
I was gonna
ridiculous.
say maybe if that's how you see it playing out, you could take the Orioles right now, and then if let's say they're a game or two up around the All-Star break, you take the Yankees thinking that they'll make a big deadline move and you can buy a
Yeah.
little lower. But I don't know. These are all going to bounce around after a bad week for some of these teams. So that whole division is you're probably going to be able to get better value later.
Yeah. No, I
Other than the
agree.
Red Sox, I think right now could be the best chance for the Red Sox, but the other two, I could see
Yeah.
moving.
Yep. All right. Moving on to the AL Central. Twins plus 210, Tigers plus 250, Guardians plus 290, Royals plus 310, and our beloved Chicago White Sox 250 to 1. It's pretty generous for the White Sox. I would have priced them at I think 500 or 1,000 to 1,
You know what the
but
saddest part is? That division is horrible too. It's not even imagine what it would be in like the NL West with the Dodgers. Like they'd be like 1,000,000,000 to 1.
correct. Yeah. So, it's anyone's game here. The Twins really had everyone in chokehold last year, and then they totally blew it down the stretch that last month plus of the year. Tigers obviously were everyone's darling, leading into the playoffs and in the playoffs. Guardians, they lost Jimenez, their three-time Gold Glover. They traded away Josh Naylor. They have Shane Bieber coming back later in the year, coming off an injury. So they have some questions. Then the Royals, they basically just have Bobby Witt
Yeah.
and Cole Reagans and
Vinny
uh,
Pasquantino or whatever.
yeah. So there's just a lot of holes on that team personally. So I don't have a strong feeling. I think any of these top four, it wouldn't surprise me. Just to kind of play it safe and honestly the boring pick, I'd probably stick with the Twins here to win the division.
I have not bet any of these. If we wanted to skip this whole division, I'd be fine with it. Quite honestly, I don't have much. Um, I would not if there's really no outcome here that would surprise me other than the White Sox winning it.
What price would you need for the longest losing streak in the MLB? I have the odds up here. The team to
Ooh,
have the longest losing streak, what odds would you need the White Sox to have to feel comfortable betting them?
the longest losing streak,
Yeah.
5 to 1.
Yeah, that's about right. They're 4 to 1. So it's a little bit under. Obviously, I think they're going to be the worst team. I've heard some people actually say that the Rockies might be a little bit worse and that their win total should actually be what the White Sox is. Because I think the White Sox is down to like, what is it here? It's like the lowest in MLB history. It is 54.5. Whereas the
Yeah,
Colorado Rockies, who have a much tougher division, which obviously matters, they're 59.5.
it might be the Rockies. Not the more I think about it, but I mean, it's
You
still
almost
four to
have to look
one.
at their schedules. What if they have Dodgers and then they had another tough team like the Braves and they have the Dodgers again? Like that's 9. That could be 9.
Yeah, that's a good point. You'd almost have to skim through all the rosters because then it could be the other way. What if they played a really tough 3 games but then the next series it just ends up being like the A's at home and it's like they can win 1 to 3. Like you got to kind
Yeah.
of look at it that way too.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, a couple of years ago it would have been the Cubs probably when they got really cold in the second half and like they ended up being over 500, but they had a really bad couple weeks. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be a really bad team. It just obviously helps your odds.
Yeah. Totally. Okay. So yeah, I guess what's your official prediction for the Central and then we can move on. Who you got winning?
Um, I feel like it's the Twins too, and I don't even think they're good. I can't take any other team.
Yeah, I agree. And this is just another whoever slots up against the AL Central winner in the playoffs. I think that's a team we can kind of attack future wise and maybe bet on them to win the ALCS.
Yeah, you're looking at whoever's the 2 seed, right? So you're
Correct. Yep.
so you're basically looking at whoever but a division winner. So you're looking at potentially a winner from the AL West,
Yeah.
assuming. And so that leads me to the AL West, where I like a team that's not top of the board, and that's the Rangers. I know you kind of like them too. But I bet them plus 225 to win the AL West, and that is a 6-pack play for me.
Plus 225 Rangers to win the West. Okay.
So my rationale here, Jacob DeGrom's back. I I think the Houston Astros are going to take a significant step back. I don't understand why they're the favorites when they lost Bregman and they lost Justin Tucker or Kyle Tucker. I do not want to get those two mixed up right now. Bad timing. But yes, Kyle Tucker. So you're talking about they're two of their best players. Obviously, Verlander's even gone. Not that he was necessarily fantastic last year, but I just the Cubs have took one of their best relievers. I don't necessarily see why they're the favorite. Yes, they still have Altuve. They still have Jordan, but
Jordan can't stay off the field or stay on the field. I think they would have been more inclined to trade him, but I don't think they would have gotten what they wanted for just because the injuries. Like as a Cubs fan, I would much rather have Tucker than Alvarez, even though I think Alvarez is probably a better hitter at his peak. But
yeah, they're probably hoping to get some value back.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be the Astros either. I am leaning Rangers. I'm not betting this just because I think the Mariners do have a legit chance. I think they have the best starting rotation in all of the MLB with Luis Castillo, George Kirby, and Logan Gilbert. I think all three of those guys are going to be in the top 10 for the AL Cy Young. It's just a matter of maybe who could do it. I would probably lean Logan Gilbert for that if you want a longer shot, George Kirby, but they just don't have hitters. Julio Rodriguez, I'm banking on a big year from him. He was really struggled for most of last season. So getting him hot and ready to go, I think is pretty critical for them. But they do have a lot of holes. I know they have Cal Raleigh. Trying to think who else.
They would need to make a deadline move, for sure, and pay for somebody, for cheap in July.
And we did see them make a move last year, getting Randy Arozarena from the Rays.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I knew that was the third guy.
Is he back this year?
Yeah, he's on the roster. So
okay.
I think maybe they're still missing one or two guys, but kind of the foundation is there, I think, especially with their pitching. So if they can give up, top 5 least runs in the league, I think that's a team that can win 87 games. Let's see what their win total is. That might be way too high for Seattle. I might want to bet they're over, actually. They're at 85.5. Okay, so I think over 85.5 at plus 102. I'm gonna go ahead and put that on the 6-pack. I think that's too higher or too lower than I had them projected. So,
okay. Any thoughts on the A's?
Any thoughts on the A's? They're playing in a new ballpark. Obviously, they're in Sacramento, AAA ballpark. So park factor is going to matter. There is literally, if you look up on Google Images, there is no foul territory there. It's just like straight stand. So I think there's going to be a lot of players who benefit in terms of instead of flying out to foul territory, they're going to get another at bat. Which is why I'll talk about this, but I think Brent Rooker is a great candidate to hit a bunch of home runs this year. So that's really the only takeaway I have for the A's.
Okay, because I have a bet on the A's, and I'm taking their over. So basically, it sounds like we like everyone in that division besides Houston to at least overperform what Vegas thinks right now. I think the A's were slightly better than what they showed last year. I want to say they were a team that had some bad luck when you look at, all those nerd analytics. They're a young team. The ballpark thing is interesting because you would think that would benefit a team that hits the ball. Like I think it'll help individual players, but I don't know if that will impact the team. But I mean, they still have Mason Miller. They didn't trade him. So I think their total is 71.5. I also just think that's really low.
Yeah, I mean,
you could win 73 games, and I mean that's not asking a lot.
No, it's really not. I think it's funny that our 6-pack has 3 picks. It's all from the AL West. It kind of concerns me a little bit. I kind of feel like I panicked and added the Mariners, but it just seems too low for me. I think if the Astros don't turn out to be the team everyone thinks they are, then I think this bodes well. If you don't necessarily agree as a listener to these 3 plays, but you kind of get our sentiment with the Astros, just bet them to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, or
I
just
think
bet
that's
their under.
another
Their
way to
under is
attack it.
probably the Astros under is probably like upper 80s if
It's
Vegas thinks
it's
they're the favorite to make the playoffs.
it's it's 86.5. So yeah, they're all right there in terms of make miss playoffs. Well, the Astros are minus 152 to make the playoffs. I'm not sure what their missed
And
playoffs
then
is.
you've got the Angels in that division who, isn't going to scare anybody.
Yeah,
So
they're going to be awful.
add some wins there.
If you want to come to the Cubs Angels in August, I was looking at the tickets. We can sit first row behind the Cubs dugout for like $118. So
That's pretty sweet.
it is, yeah. So you can bring your glove. We can try to get you a ball, all your favorite things. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of the AL. Moving on to the NL East. This is probably going to be one of the most competitive divisions, and hopefully we see, this leading right into the game 162. Notable things here. Well, we'll just go through the odds here. So we have Braves plus 135, Phillies plus 180, Mets plus 210, Nationals 100 to 1, Marlins 250 to 1. Not that it matters, but the Nationals 100 to 1 seems like too much. I don't think they actually win,
Yeah.
but I don't think they're going to be a terrible team. Mets added Soto. That's the big thing here. Braves are getting Acuna back, a couple months into the year. Same with Spencer Strider. So by the All-Star break, they should be 100% ready to go. And then there's obviously the Phillies. You think Harper's going to have a big year. They still have Wheeler and Nola bolstering that pitching staff.
I do worry that the Phillies might have missed their window. I mean, they're getting a bit old. I mean, Nola is good. He's not great. You've got guys like Castellanos and Schwarber. Like all these guys are, in their 30s now. I don't know if I'm not saying they're going to fall off, but I don't necessarily think they're going to come in and be like their peak. And then, who is Alec Boehm? I still don't really know. The bottom of
Yeah.
their lineup is pretty bad. Zach Wheeler would probably have to carry them if they win that division. They did take, some longer shots in free agency and made some deals that could, that are kind of high risk, high reward in the pitching market. So if all of those things hit, then yeah, I could see it. Plus 180 is not good enough value for me. That division is way too competitive. I think the Nationals will be frisky, like you said. They are really young, but CJ Abrams, top 10 shortstop. Dylan Cruz, he's not eligible for Rookie of the Year, but he's basically a rookie, and he's going to, I think, be a good player. So
I
there's
think James Wood is better than
James
both
Wood.
those
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, James
So,
Wood. There's a
yeah.
lot of guys in that organization that I think are going to be really good players, but I don't think that they're good enough, especially in that division, to make a run. But they could be a team that is really annoying for those top 3 teams.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see one of the top 3 teams struggle with injuries like the Mets. I know they've had some injuries with their pitching. Manaea could potentially miss some time. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Nationals end up finishing 3rd in that division rather than 4th. So if there's
Yeah.
any like exact top 5, ways to attack that division, I'd go Braves, Phillies, or Braves. Oh, it's tough. I don't know because I feel like the Mets could be between 1 and 4. They have a pretty range where I think the Braves only finish first or second, which leads me to a 6-pack play. I am taking the Braves plus 135. I know it's a competitive division, but I think that their pitching is going to be really, really good. Their pitcher Spencer Schwellenbach, He's going to be in his second year. Just to kind of throw this out here right now, I bet him 40-1 to win NL Cy Young. So I think that once they have Strider back, in addition to him, I know they have Morton and a couple other guys. I think that they're going to be a tough team to beat. So I'm going Braves plus 135.
Okay. I was going to say, I think the best value is maybe the Mets, but I don't believe in them because listen to this starting rotation:
Mm-hmm.
Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea, Frankie Montas, David Peterson, Clay Holmes, and then, your 6 and 7 are Paul Blackburn and Griffin Canning. Who there scares you? I mean, it's maybe Kodai Senga if he's absolutely rolling, and he's been injury prone. You said Manaea is already hurt. Frankie Mont.
Manaea is out until mid to late April. Frankie Montas is out until late May or June. Like,
Oh
that's
gosh,
already two guys. Yeah, that
yeah, and
scares me.
Edwin Diaz, as your closer, he's been up and down, but I mean, you would be banking on this offense going absolutely crazy. It's possible. It's possible that they tread water. Those pitchers come back healthy, and um, Steve Cohen says, "Screw it. Let's go even further into luxury tax at the All Star or at the All Star break for the deadline." And they
Yeah.
go out and they get a Dylan Cease or someone like that. It's very, very possible. So that's why a little piece of me is like, I'm going to keep an eye on them if they start slow during this injury stretch, and like, maybe end of April they're in third place. Everyone's kind of not thinking about them. I might buy some stock, but for now, I'm not betting any of these because I could see this going so many different ways.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just think with the Mets injuries, if like you said, they are within a few games, come a couple months into the year and they're starting to get healthier, I do think that's a buy opportunity. But I think that it's going to be tough to overcome those injuries. I think the Mets are really built, especially for the future. They're a couple pieces away. They just obviously signed Soto to that long term deal, so they're always going to have that superstar to kind of rely on for the next several years. Whereas the Phillies, I feel like they are kind of running out of time.
I
I
feel
could
like
see
it's
a
this
pretty,
year.
yeah. So, and I think the Braves will be good. So, Marlins, that's a really bad ball club too. We'll see if the Cubs can potentially poach some of their talent if they have any left at the deadline. Okay, NL Central, our Chicago Cubs minus 105. So they're the favorites. Brewers plus 290, Reds plus 490, Pirates and Cardinals. Hate to see the Cardinals last 10-1.
How big of homers are we if we put the Cubs on the 6-pack? Because I mean, don't get me wrong, I got them at a better number than minus 105. Like I think I got them like plus 110, plus 120 range a few months ago. If they don't win the division, it's a complete and utter failure of a season. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Um, the Brewers lost like two of their top four best players. Willie Adames is gone. I don't really know what the only way you don't win this division and I can sleep at night is the Reds, all of their young players hit at the right time, and Francona just had a masterclass. And Ellie De La Cruz is an MVP candidate. Matt McClain comes back as a comeback player of the year candidate. All of these young Spencer Steer, like all these guys that we know have really high ceilings, all hit. I think that's the biggest threat to the Cubs. I shouldn't say I'm not worried about the Brewers because that's bit me in the ass so many times, but it doesn't even seem like they're trying to win the division this year. I mean, they got rid of Devin Williams. They let Willie Adames walk. I know I'm forgetting another guy or two, but like these young names they have, they all can't play because they're so loaded in the outfield. I mean, you've got like four center fielders.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very peculiar. I mean, they do have Yelich, who is going to be great for 2 weeks and then he'll hurt his back. But they just, I don't know. It seems really weird how they're going about things. And I think this is the year it catches up to them without a doubt. Your point on the Reds, another play we didn't bring up, Hunter Green. He really burst onto the scene the last couple months last year, and was in Cy Young contention. So if you see Francona be the favorite for manager of the year in the NL and Hunter Green's top 5 in the NL Cy Young, that's kind of when Cubs fans are probably panicking because we're seeing the Reds
Yeah, Hunter
performing well.
Green. There you go.
Yeah.
Um,
So
maybe I should do this exacta. Maybe I should do the Cubs. If you, I think DraftKings does a top 2 exacta. Cubs, Reds. So Cubs 1, Reds 2. Let's see. I can get that. Why is it not pulling up for me?
let's see. While you're looking that up, I can talk about the rest of the division. Pirates. Yes, they have Paul Skeens. I understand. He's a good player, but they have literally no hitting on their team. I just don't know how you can bet on that team. Cardinals are an absolute shambles. They're looking to trade Arenado. They need to do a complete overhaul. And I just think those teams, while they're only 10-1, I still think those teams are as much of a throwaway as.
What do you think the odds are for the Cubs to finish first and the Reds to finish second?
Plus 310.
Plus 950.
Oh, because the Reds are plus 950. Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Put it on the 6-pack, bro. Let's do it.
I am totally on board that. I think those are the 2 best teams on paper.
All right.
That seems crazy.
Would you like a full unit or a half unit?
Let's just do a half.
Okay. I'm also putting a unit on the Cubs to win the Central, minus 105 too. I think we need to do that. Okay.
Jed's got a job to save. Like come deadline time, I don't even think it matters if they're under 500. I think they're going for it. They would have to be so far out of it to not be aggressive at the deadline. And I don't know if I can trust the Reds, the Brewers, any of those other Pirates to be aggressive in the same way.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I do not disagree at all. We'll obviously talk quite a bit about the Cubs and probably have some more team analysis coming up once we kind of see who breaks from that roster. Obviously, Matt Shaw is coming back. He's a candidate for NL Rookie of the Year. But yeah, I think it's like you said, it'd be a complete disaster if the Cubs didn't win. I mean,
injuries, I guess.
We're 6-0-1 in spring
6-0-2. They just tied again. They were down 8-6 in the 8th inning and tied it up.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Our one of our favorite guests from last year, Joey Isaacs, who was messaging me yesterday, he bet on the Cubs to beat the Angels. The Angels obviously ended in a tie. The Angels had, for the second half of their game, had their single A squad, and the Cubs could not beat them. They were up 4-2 and gave up 2 in the top of the 9th to tie. So very, very tough push there for our guy. But yeah, Cubs off to a good start. Cubs, obviously, first week of the season, or a week early, they're traveling to Japan to take on the Dodgers, who are the NL West favorites to beat everyone in the MLB this year. They're minus 650. Padres plus 950. Diamondbacks 10-1. Giants 37-1. And the Rockies 500-1. Your thoughts?
I think the Dodgers will win the division.
Yep.
I'm staying away from their win total, though, because I could see them, laying their foot off the gas a little bit, maybe expanding the rotation. They have an older team in some ways. You want to keep a guy like Mookie fresh. You don't want to burn out Kershaw in case, not that they could rely on him in the same way, but, he's a guy who they would like to have healthy. So I don't think they're necessary. And they're a team who's they only care about the World Series. Like winning the division to them, they don't really care. They do it every year. Their goals are much higher. So that's my thoughts on them. But I think I'm fading the Padres a little bit. I think they were the second best team, maybe in the whole league last year behind the Dodgers. However, I don't know if I can count on them to recreate some of that magic. There are some differences in that lineup. who is Manny Machado going to be this year? You notice neither of us drafted him in our draft earlier. Couldn't say that a couple years ago.
I will say
Is
Nicholas Bear will be drafting Manny Machado on his fantasy baseball team.
who is Dylan Cease going to be on this team by August? I would say that's a 50-50 at best. They are a team that's in some financial struggles right now, and if they aren't, they're not going to probably be in first place at the deadline. And if they aren't right there, what's their incentive to spend more money? If anything, they should probably be trying to cut payroll.
Yep.
So that's kind of where my head's at. Is I just don't I don't think they're a team that's necessarily going to be all
So
in a tough division.
you must share the same sentiment that you think the D-backs will be second in that division.
I bet that future, that future straight or whatever they call them, straight
Mm-hmm.
forecast.
The
I
one,
took
two.
Dodgers 1, D-baps 2, plus 170. I feel good about that being a six-pack tracker. I will say some
Okay.
books you really want to shop that one. I got mine on DK last week, but Caesars did not have the same opinion. I think they liked the Diamondbacks a lot more than the Giants, and so you could tell that in their numbers. It was not plus 170. It was like closer to even money. The Giants are a team, though. I think they could be frisky. I mean, yes, they lost Blake Snell and he went to the Dodgers, but they did go and get Willie Adames. They did make some other moves. They did go get Verlander. Like they didn't sit on their hands, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
They have some pieces. I think if you're looking to bet that team in some way, Jung-Hoo Lee, I know he was
Yeah,
hurt a
he's
little bit
back.
last
Yeah.
year. I think he could potentially lead the MLB in hits. That's a guy who's going to get on base a ton, and he'll be batting towards the top of that lineup.
Logan Webb in the rotation.
Yeah, Logan Webb, Robbie Ray, Jordan Hicks, Kyle
Jordan
Harrison,
Hicks,
the
yeah.
second-year player. So yeah, you're right. It is a pretty solid team.
I think
It's
second
just
place is their ceiling, of course.
yeah,
But we've seen the Giants for whatever. Like that one year they won 100 games and they were not that good. They're just kind of an organization that surprises you from time to time.
yeah,
But yes, I am on the Diamondbacks to finish second because I am betting on a Corbin Carroll bounce back. They signed Corbin Burns, kind of surprised some people. That's a really good rotation. That's a team that maybe they don't win that division, but I would not want to play them in October because you might have to go up against Corbin Burns, then Zach Gallen, 1-2. They have a guy in Corbin Carroll who at his peak is an MVP candidate. Um, they just have a lot of like very quality professional hitters.
yeah.
So I would not want to play them, but we'll see how it all pans out.
What's your official prediction? We can kind of close off this division after this. How many wins do you think the Dodgers are going to have this year? Because I mean, everyone thinks they're a super team, and my thought is they are like I don't want to say marginally. They are better than last year's team, but what they have that no other team in MLB history has ever had is this amount of depth. If their like top 3 pitchers get hurt, they literally have the same team that just won the World Series last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, that's true.
And so any team that has injuries, yeah, they could go on a 3-7 slide maybe twice in a season and still end up with 86 87 wins and get in the playoffs, whereas I just don't think that's going to happen to the Dodgers. I think that when they play poorly, they'll just go 5-5 over a 10-game period. We're not going to see them continually struggle.
Like I said, I don't really have a play on it. I think the 103.5 or whatever the number is probably pretty accurate because it's almost like they can win as many games within reason that they want to. Like if they want to push it, they could get up to 110 range. If
Yeah.
they want to just win, focus on the playoffs, they could be in the upper 90s, low 100s. So it's how healthy do they stay? How big of a threat is the second place team on their heels? But yeah, you're totally right. I mean, they were not even healthy last year, and they won the World Series, and then they went out and they added Blake Snell to a rotation. they got a Shohei Ohtani back who can pitch
Yeah.
again. They have Tanner Scott, who's an awesome reliever. Like they are a better team than last year's World Series team on paper.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. They their manager Dave Roberts, I feel like he's almost gotten fired like 6 times over the past like how
Ryan
many ever
Day,
years
yeah.
it's been. Yeah, right, exactly. Um, for manager of the year, he is 7-1, the fourth favorite. I mean, if you or I, if one of us was being the manager for that team, I think we'd win 95 games. Like I'm pretty confident. So, how many games would he have to win? I would not touch that 7-1. I did find a stray 20-1 the other day.
Oh, okay. That's a little
So I
better.
bet that. So that's basically,
Him
I think
breaking
if
the
they,
record. Yeah.
yeah, if they win 117 games, I think that's live. So that's, I put some pizza money on that, but nothing to write home about.
It's also possible that no other team really like has just some fantastic come out of nowhere year and they just kind of get it by default, or he gets it by default.
Yeah, I agree. All right, and also to close out this division, I know we talked about it a bit, but I do want to officially add D-backs over 86.5 wins. I think they're going to be right in the 88 to 90 win mark. Hopefully, as long as they hold their own against the Dodgers.
Yeah, they're a good team.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to talk about before we get into awards?
No, I don't think so. I think I've hit my top plays for season win totals, divisions, things like that.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll do awards and then we can give out like our official World Series predictions. I don't think either of us have any futures or straight forecast bets, but those are things I think we usually like to attack live in season because I know last year I got the D-backs to win the NLCS at like it was like 50-1, which obviously they didn't, but that number was too inflated. And same with the
Yeah.
Royals too. So
We need to be better about tweeting things we find
yeah,
mid-season, because I know
yeah.
it's hard when you're doing it on a pod.
Yeah, and I think we'll try to be better overall this year too, of like putting some TikTok clips and like other stuff out there too, and trying to manage that. Because yeah, it's these award markets are just so fluid. In our next episode next week, we're going to talk ML or NBA and NHL awards. I know I have some stuff there. So, but okay, MLB awards. Let's just start with the MVP market. AL MVP. Wow, Bobby Witt has just jumped to the favorite. I was not aware of this. Bobby Witt is on FanDuel's plus 270, and Aaron Judge is 3-1.
That's news
Gunnar
too.
Gunnar Henderson 7 plus 750. Seager 10-1. Alvarez 14. Guerrero 15.
I'll just jump to the chase. I don't have any AL MVP bets because
I don't either.
I don't see any value because the only guys that really intrigued me were Witt and Judge, and I'm not betting anything that's like under 4-1.
I thought you bet Adley Rutschman.
I I thought about it at 50-1. I think at 50-1 that's kind of a crazy number
He's
because
up to 70-1 now on FanDuel.
all right, maybe we'll throw like $3 on it because I mean to win 210, I mean that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, long shots, Adley Rutschman, Junior Caminero, 75-1. Those are a couple names. Like, I don't think they're actually going to win. I think it's going to be Judge. I'm surprised he's 3-1.
If
So
he's healthy, yeah.
if he struggles again, I don't even care how many games he misses. If you ever can get him like 10-1 and you think he's going to come back healthy,
I would
I'm
rather
on
just
that.
wait till he slumps and get a better number, or someone like Gunner or Bobby has an awesome week. Because like I said, he got to 16-1 last year and he won. And
Yeah.
and I threw in that Judge Otani parlay, and it was what, like $5 to win like 300. And in
Yeah.
hindsight, it's like, why did I not go harder on just betting the two best players?
Yeah, don't overthink it. And I think that's exactly what we need to do in the NL market too. Is I don't have any bets yet. I think this is something I also want to attack during the season. And yeah, feel free to interrupt me whenever. But Otani plus 145, Soto plus 550, Tatis 8-1, Mookie Betts 13, Harper 15, Kyle Tucker 17, Lindor, De La Cruz, Acuna 25.
I would not advise it, but I did bet a little bit of Kyle Tucker just because I'm a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
Caught myself that time, but um, he was in the conversation last year in the American League till his injury. I mean, I remember that there was a point where Gunnar, Bobby, Judge, and Kyle Tucker were like all on absolute heaters, and I was like, this MVP race is going to be amazing. And then Kyle Tucker gets hurt, Gunnar kind of falls off a little bit. Bobby makes a push, but Judge just went absolutely nuts to finish the year, and it didn't even really end up being close.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on that. And I love with FanDuel you can parlay it as well. Like Lindor's a guy who obviously finished second in MVP last year. If you parlay Judge and Lindor, it's 100-1. So you can really add things up here, especially if you have a lot of conviction on one person, which usually comes obviously later in the year. So okay, let's go to the Cy Young. I know we didn't talk much about pitching at the beginning of the episode, but AL Cy Young, Tariq Skubal, defending winner. He's plus 350. Garrett Crochet of the Red Sox 4-1. Cole Reagans, DeGrom, Logan Gilbert, and Garrett Cole around 11 or 12-1. And then a big jump: Hunter Brown 20-1, Framber Valdez 22.
Did you mention
Anything?
Grayson Rodriguez?
No, he was next on the list. So that's actually one of my futures. Grayson Rodriguez 30-1. I think they're going to rely a lot on him, and I think he's going to have a good year. So
I placed that one too. I did it with free play, full transparency, but
yeah,
I see the path for him. I don't obviously he's 30-1 for a reason. I'm not saying I would give him like a 50-50 by any means, but he plays for a team that has AL title aspirations. He's going to probably be the ace this year. We know his stuff is there. We know the pedigree is there. If the Orioles are going to win the division like you think they are, he's going to probably be one of the main reasons. It would be pretty surprising if they win that division and he's a non-factor. So the chance to get wins is there. That's not exact. That ballpark isn't like necessarily going to impact him. So I think that if he goes out there and does his job like we think he can, he's going to be a finalist. So 30-1 is a good number.
Yeah, I definitely think he's going to get shorter. I'd find it hard to believe that Skubal's going to go wire to wire like he did last year. I think just waiting for like the first 4 to 6 starts for these guys to kind of play out will tell us a little bit about who's going to be a contender. But yeah, Grayson Rodriguez is my only look so far.
Yeah,
DeGrom open 25-1. I wish I could have got some of that. He's down to 11-1.
I have a DeGrom play, but not on Cy Young. I part of that Rangers play is him coming back and believing that if he is healthy and available, he is still one of the best pitchers in the world. I bet him 30-1 to be the strikeout leader. I know we're talking Cy Young here, but I did play that, and I think it's a good number for it.
I
know the innings and
the innings,
the injury risk.
I was listening to a podcast 2 years ago or 3 years ago. DeGrom was minus 1,000 to win the Cy Young in June because he's dominating. Then he got hurt like a week later.
You probably want to hedge if it started trending that way.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I'm always hedging against DeGrom probably, but I mean, as a fan, I would love to see him win. He's such an elite talent, and he's really got the short end of the stick. And
he's also in the AL too, where there's some of those lineups may not be great.
Yep. And I think the voters, if he only pitches 150 innings and he has like a great ERA and his strikeouts is still up there, like I think 150 innings from DeGrom is better than 180 out of, I don't know.
And in terms of the strikeout prop, every single guy who is a strikeout pitcher is an injury risk. There is no one who throws the ball 98 miles an hour and is not a threat for Tommy John. So like, I do think he's a slightly higher risk, but you're not going to convince me that Garrett Crochet is also not an injury risk. I mean, he's missed time too. Like all of those guys at the top of the list who I like for this award too, or this stat, I think they all are a very high risk.
Yeah. So do you think maybe we should try to buck that trend and bet on someone who doesn't get a lot of strikeouts? Maybe Kyle Hendricks 1,000 to 1 for the
Um,
Angels.
if I were gonna do that, I would probably go with my guy Justin Steele, who I did take a long shot flyer on for NL Cy Young.
Okay, so what number did you get? Because Justin Steele is 35 to 1 on FanDuel right
I
now.
got him 40 to 1.
Okay, so he's
I
in the
think I
30 to
think he
40 range.
Yeah, and I think some places have him down to 30. But my logic being, look at his 2023 stats until the last month. He was right there. He is one of the rare pitchers in the league who throws a lot of innings, relatively speaking. And because of the fact that he doesn't throw 98, he stays healthy and he goes deep into games. So yeah, he may his K per nine might not be high, but there are some nights where he's going to go out there and he's going to throw 7 innings, and because he lasted 7 innings, he can get the strikeout numbers up there. It just might not be on like a rate basis. Um, Him getting 8-9 Ks a game is not that out of you know out of the norm for him. It's you're betting on him staying healthy, of course, but also I just think he's really good and I think he knows how to pitch. Um, 40 to 1 for a reason, but he's a guy I like, to as a potential hedge candidate too. You just keep him in the top three. Maybe you can hedge. The NL does not have these runaway guys, in my opinion, for these
This
low numbers.
everybody is inflated because of the Paul Skeens 2 to 1. So I totally agree because my bet is I have Sandy Alcantara 25 to 1. He's down to 15 to 1 at some places. You see Paul Skeens at 2 to 1. There is no way he's going wire to wire. He's never pitched 200 plus innings. We don't really know what to expect out of him this year. I know he's gonna have some elite starts, but there could be a little bit of regression. Uh, Zach Wheeler 7 to 1. I do think he should be the second favorite. 7 to 1 is probably a little too steep for me. Snell plus 850. Corbin Burns 14 to 1. Chris Sale 17 to 1. Yamamoto 18 to 1. And so on. Um, Other guys I like down the list: Hunter Green 33 to 1. We kind of talked about if the Reds win the division, he needs to be an ace. So I think that's possible. And then my other bet was Spencer Schwellenbach, 45 to 1 on FanDuel. Um, he is an up and coming guy. We kind of see it a lot in like making comparisons to the NFL, like these second year quarterbacks, like you see them kind of make that jump into being an elite like household name. I think that's what's going to happen with Spencer Schwellenbach this year. Um, so I just threw a little bit on him, 45 to 1.
And going back to Justin Steele's 2023, he went
Mm-hmm.
16-5. He made 30 starts. He threw 173 innings, which is a lot for nowadays. He finished fifth in the Cy Young. So I know he's not the sexy name. He's not the electric stuff, but I think you've got to, for a guy who has the potential to finish top 5 for this award, just, less than 18 months ago, I'm going to take a flyer on him at 14 to 1 on a team that has elite infield defense too. I mean, that is going to help him. Yeah, he does not have the crazy strikeout numbers, but he's not Kyle Hendricks where it's like 2 strikeouts a game either.
Yeah.
Yeah, the NL's
Yeah.
weird because of Paul Skeens, and I agree with you. I don't think he's winning that award, or at least not going wire to wire with it.
Yeah, I think if you want Paul Skeens, if you want Paul Skeens, then bet him later in the year. There's no way he's not going to be.
I mean, how much can this really move his direction? I mean, really. I mean,
This early
like
in
you
the
said,
year. No.
Degrom was untouchable for 2 months, and he still didn't win the award. I mean, how much is this really going to move? This is his first full season. He doesn't have probably going to throw a ton of innings. He's not going to play for a winning team. He's got a few things going against him too. So I'd wait. I'd rather bet Wheeler 7-1, but I still wouldn't bet it.
Let's just say by the end of the year, Livy Dunn might be dating a Chicago Cubs pitcher. We'll see.
Shota
Is
Imanaga,
Justin
probably.
is Justin Steele married?
I
I
think
don't
so.
know.
Yeah, he just had a kid.
Nice Mississippi girl. Okay. All right, so moving on, keeping it moving here. Let's talk
Rookie of the year.
yeah, let's do rookies. Yeah. Okay. AL Rookie of the Year. Jason Dominguez 3-1. Christian Campbell, the Red Sox 5-1. Jackson Jobe, Tigers 6-1. And then spattering of other talents. I know you texted me about Christian Campbell. That's your guy this year, right? For the Red Sox.
Yeah, but not at 5-1. I know I got him 9-1 and then plus 750. 5 to
Yeah,
one's a little low, but I would still bet that over Dominguez at 3-1.
yeah, I agree. I also bet Christian Moore 17-1. If you remember him, he was on the Tennessee Volunteers a couple of years ago. Maybe it was last year. I don't remember. He was such a good hitter. And the Red Sox the Angels got him. They picked him 8th overall, actually, last year in the draft. So I think there's already room for him to come up. So we'll see when he comes up. It's not going to be an opening day thing. And then another guy for the Guardians, Chase DeLauder. I got him 100-1. He's down to 35-1. That was more of just I knew that number was going to move. It's just so hard to tell if some of these guys down the list, like when they're going to be coming up. Like Travis Bazzana, the guy who went number 1 overall for the Guardians, he'll probably be up, but it might not be till August, and you're not going to win that award.
Yeah, this feels like the
But if
second
that,
straight. This feels like the second straight year where the AL Rookie of the Year is really weak.
yeah,
Because last year we were talking about Kowser and Heel, and it was just like, is anyone going to take this award and run with it? I could see the
and
same thing here.
and last year we specifically, or at least I specifically was like, I'm not going for any pitchers, and pitchers swept the award. So
Yeah, that was probably an outlier, but
yeah.
that's just what happens when no one really goes for it.
That being said, Roki Sasaki, NL Rookie of the Year, is the
Yeah,
favorite, 2-1. Dylan Cruz plus 350, Matt Shaw 4-1, and then everyone else above 10-1.
that feels pretty fair to me. All of those numbers. Um,
Yeah,
I wouldn't bet any of them, but I think that Vegas did a good job at least nailing the top 3.
you wouldn't bet Matt Mervis 70-1.
Is this his 5th year in a row on this list?
I don't even know how he's eligible, but for Miami, I do think it's going to be a top 3 guy: Sasaki, Cruz, or Matt Shaw. Hoping it's Shaw. I really do believe it can be Shaw, especially
Me
because
too.
I don't think Roki Sasaki is going to pitch enough innings and be good enough in his first year. Just it does not make sense with that roster they have. They do not need to kill that kid. Just let him
Yeah.
take his time.
I mean, I'm biased. I have some money on Shaw, but again, that's just because I'm a Cubs fan. I'm not going to sit here and argue him versus Dylan Cruz. I mean, Dylan Cruz is a great prospect too. He was right there with Skeens to go number 1 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's no shame in taking Dylan Cruz and kind of going in between those two. But I do think it's going to be one of those top 3. I don't know who I would take down the board. I would probably just let it ride and see if there's someone who gets hot, gets called up.
Yeah, there's really not a Jackson Merrill. I think he was 30-1 last year, and there was reports that he was going to break camp as a starting center fielder. Like, if you see anything like that over the next 2 weeks, I don't necessarily even care how good that player is. If he's going to get the at bats day in and day out, like you saw with Kowser, he wasn't that good, but if you
No.
play, you are going to accumulate stats,
Yeah, like
and that's what matters.
maybe you take a flyer on a Kevin Alcantara in case a PCA runs into a wall like a bat out of hell and gets hurt, and now he's the starting center fielder for the Chicago Cubs and gets all that center field war and he's got this like there are some crazy things that could happen that I mean for that one I hope it doesn't happen, but
Yeah.
um crazy stuff can happen. I don't love any of the other names down the board.
Yeah, same here. Okay, we'll continue to monitor that.
Are we adding Christian Campbell to the tracker or no?
Well, it's down to 5-1.
Oh,
We have
that's
him at
right. Yeah,
9-1.
no, no,
So
no, no, no.
if you can find 9-1 or better, we do sign off on that. We'll add some 6-pack stuff in season because right now it's too hard. Manager of the year, I do not have anything in the AL NL. I mentioned I had the Dave Roberts 20-1.
Francona is going to be the trendy pick.
Yeah, he's down to 5-1. Council plus 420.
I think that's kind of the hedge against the Cubs. If you're worried the Cubs aren't going to win the division, maybe that's your way of doing it because you can get Terry Francona 5-1 and still leave some cushion that, hey, maybe the Cubs win the division and Francona sneaks the Reds into the wild card. Like there's that path. Maybe it's less likely, but it's a nice Cubs hedge. But yeah, I mean, Council's the favorite in the NL, and I don't think I would bet that at the numbers I've seen, 3 to 4-1 range. I mean, maybe you look at the DBAPS manager.
Torey Lavella's 11-1. Yeah, I don't hate Dave Martinez plus 850. If you think that, well, I don't like plus 850. It needs to be a little bit more. But if you think the Nationals are going to be good, I think that's someone. If they can sneak into the wild card, it's definitely possible. The AL side, do you know who the Seattle Mariners manager is?
Oh no.
His name's Dan Wilson. I would have never guessed that. He's the favorite at 4-1. Alex Cora plus 450. Kevin Cash of the Rays 6-1. Then everybody else. I don't know. Bruce Bochy's 13-1. Stephen Vogt 20-1. I think he won last year. Brandon Hyde 22-1. If the Orioles won 105 games, I think it'd be Brandon Hyde probably, but I'm not touching anything in that market.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that we're overthinking this, and it's just the winner of the AL East and the NL East, both of them. Like they're the two most competitive leagues. You know, maybe it's Alex Cora because he gets the Red Sox to win the division, or maybe it's Brian Snitker because he gets the Braves, you know, to run past Phillies and the Mets in a really tough league. Like it could be something that simple, but I don't know. I just think that if you're gonna bet those, you might as well just bet a team's over or under, or a team's like just division winner, things like that.
If you think it's that simple, you're probably wrong because, as we've learned, nothing is ever that simple. Other than Cubs win NL Central, obviously. Yeah. American and National League relievers of the year. Not a whole lot. I did not make any bets. I don't mind Felix Bautista 12-1 if you think that he's going to be all systems go in the AL for the Orioles. Yeah, I do not have anything in these markets. Do you?
I have a little bit on Porter Hodge 25-1, another Cub. The thing with him is he was really good last year. He got to camp early this year. Been working on some things. He looked really, really, really good in the sample size we saw. He is not a proven name. He will probably not even start out as the closer, but I think he's got a chance to be a multi-inning guy, a setup guy. And if things, start to fall apart in the bullpen, he probably moves to closer, and Council calls them all out getters. So I'll take a flyer on 25-1 because that's the most volatile market in the entire league.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. The biggest thing in these markets, just get someone who come September is in like the top 3, and you should be in pretty good shape if you want to get out of it or sweat it out.
Couple things too with that market. Don't bet on someone that you think could get traded.
Correct. Yep.
And bet on a guy that's going to have chance on a good team. You want a guy who's going to like have a chance to get saves or, holds, things like that.
Yep. Okay. Comeback player of the year on both sides. I believe you have at least one bet.
Mike Trout 4-1. I think the story is there. I think him moving to right field increases his chances of staying healthy. And whenever he does play, he is really damn good. So it's a matter of him staying healthy. It's not a long shot. I think the number is probably pretty fair. So I'm not doing this as, sometimes you have to just take the number that's fair, and you don't have to find value on every single bet. And I think this is one where I don't feel like I'm robbing the casino. But I just think that it's a good number on a good player, and I'll ride it out.
Yeah, and just to follow up with you, I'm taking Mike Trout. This is a six-pack play over 22 and a half homers this year, at minus 130. Um, right now he hits a home run every 15 at bats or so. This year he's projected to have 261 at bats. He needs about 350, but he's projected so low because here in terms of going backwards, starting in 2024, he had a 109, 308, 438, 117, and 199 back in 2020. So we really just need a healthy year out of him. He hits 30 home runs easy, I
Yeah.
think.
In
So
fairness, in 2020, that was a shortened season. But
yeah,
yeah, I hear you. I think I think he could probably still roll out of bed and be one of the best players in the league. And I
yeah,
think it could be a similar to Chris Sale thing. I got him last year at 3-1 to win the comeback player of the year. And it's like, sometimes I think for that market, you just bet on the future Hall of Famer and not try to get too cute with it and see what happens.
yep. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay. Yeah, NL comeback player of the year, Acuna Jr.'s 3-1, Alcantara 4-1, Spencer Strider plus 550. Matt McLean's an interesting name at plus 650. I think he could have a good year for the Reds. Jung Ho Lee 12-1. I don't know. I mean, I think he's going to be good, but he's just coming back from 1 year injuries, not necessarily established. So it's kind of hard to say how the voters are gonna
Yeah, I like the Matt McLean
pitch them.
bet. Again, that's not one where you're going to feel like you're getting value, but plus
Yeah,
650 for a guy who was a 4-win player in half a season. He's still 2 years ago. He's still in his low 20s. I mean, top prospect, first round pick. Um, I think he's ready for opening day. He missed all of last year, so like he kind of has that going for him too. I think he checks all the boxes for a comeback player of the year. I would definitely think that that's probably one of the smarter bets on the board. But again, it's not flashy or sexy, and a lot of people probably don't even know who he is because again, he's played half a season and it was in 2023.
yeah, yeah. Okay. I have some season long player props if you're ready to move into that.
Yep.
If you don't have any other awards thoughts. Okay. So I mentioned the Mike Trout over 22 and a half homers, sticking to that market. Zach Nato for the Angels under 21 and a half homers. He just coming off season shoulder surgery. As of a few days ago, last week, he was cleared to throw from 45 feet. If that flares up again and he misses time, there's no way he's hitting 21 over 21 and a half. So I'm taking his under at minus 120. And then Brent Rooker for the A's. I previewed that earlier. With that ballpark, I think he's going to hit quite a bit of home runs. So I'm going over 33 and a half. I think he's a guy who could push. He could push to lead the league, potentially at 50.
Yeah.
So I think 33 and a half
I
is
think I'm
possible.
the one who tipped you off on Rooker, so I'll take credit
Yeah.
for that one. I bet him to hit like 40 plus because I wanted like a plus number, but I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
have the risk of Judge hitting 60 and he doesn't win most in the league. But I agree
Yeah.
with that one. The
Okay.
Nito one feels kind of random to me, so credit to you. I don't know what kind of research you were doing there, but I have not bet on him.
Yeah. All information based there. I guess I have two other bets. One of them I share with you. We both got Alex Bregman most doubles in the league. Right when he got traded, he fell down to like 20-1. We got him at 50-1. So that number is not available anymore. And I did recently just bet Corbin Carroll to lead the league in runs scored at 20-1. That's still available. Um, Last year, they had to move him down the lineup. It's like, could they option this guy to AAA? He was so bad. And then the last like 2 months of the season, he turned into the player that they extended and kind of that cornerstone of their franchise. And I think he's going to be good the whole year. I think he's going to steal a lot of bases. He's going to score a lot of runs. So I think 20-1 is a pretty fair number for him. I think it's down to 18 maybe, but there's still some 20s out there.
Yeah, I'm big on Corbin Carroll's comeback, so I might join you on that one. Obviously, I already joined you on Bregman. Um, Bregman's got the wall in left field, the green monster. So if
Yeah,
it's very similar setup field wise to what he had in Houston at whatever the heck that field's. I can't even think of what it's called right now. The Crawford box is out and left.
Minute
Um,
Maid. Yeah,
yeah, so he's gonna get his doubles. That's kind of what he does. I think the ballpark is part of the reason why he picked the Red Sox to begin with. So I think it's a smart bet. Um, Obviously, you're gonna have to worry about some of the speedy guys with that one, the Bobby Witts of the world.
yeah, 100%. Okay. I do not have any more bets. Do you?
No, that's it.
Angles. Okay. All right. So official. We can close the show off here after an official prediction here out of the AL. Man, I would love to say the Rangers. I don't think I have the guts to say it though. I'm gonna stick with the Orioles. I'm just gonna say that they will make at least one move to get them into contention. And I'll go Dodgers over Orioles in the World Series this year.
Well, I do have the guts to make that decision, and this is someone who took the Rangers under last year. So
Okay.
I am not someone who's been in love with them necessarily for the last few years, but I will take the Dodgers over the Rangers because I do think the Rangers could get that 2 seed. They can play the winner of the AL Central in the first round. That's a huge boost. Um, and then obviously the Dodgers are just the Dodgers. Um, Cubs are 15-1 to make the World Series, just saying.
It's possible. Anything can happen in a series like that. We've seen injuries. We've seen certain players just get red hot where,
Yeah.
they can't be stopped. So it is possible. I mean, Dodgers are minus 10,000 to make the playoffs. The next best team in the NL is minus 340. So you kind of have to slate them into at least the NLCS, and then from there they're going to be minus 200 to minus 500 against anybody they face in the playoffs. So that's just how it's going to be. Um, but yeah, all right. Thought this was a good episode. I know it ran a little long, hour and a half here, but I hope everyone really enjoyed listening to this. We're going to continue to talk a lot of baseball. We have some March Madness and NBA content coming up real soon. Make sure to start getting this content out on a weekly basis. And make sure to tune in to the next episode. We're going to do the second half of our MLB War Draft, where we'll be looking at pitchers and then outfielders. And we'll get all that linked up in the episode description. With Slade, it's been a pleasure, man. I gotta text the group and get fantasy baseball going. So if you are a listener, highly suggest that. It's a good way, even if you aren't an avid baseball fan. It's definitely gives you a good excuse to follow all the teams a little bit closer. I know it helps me.
Yep.
But okay, all right. Thanks for listening, everyone. This has been another episode of Bet GPT.